everybody. Welcome to Forge and Eternum, where we talk about all things New World. Today is a special edition, the September Q&A video, and even more special, episode 50. Woo! You might also notice we're back here in our normal studio because we have a team up in Seattle and we have a team down here. So we go back and forth on occasion. We wanted to include a lot of our Seattle folks in the video to make it easier on them. So we're glad to be back. We're even more glad to answer your questions. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Michael to ask away.
All right, we got a lot of questions today. So first one, when can I buy the expansion?
You can buy the expansion October 3rd. You could get it on your wish list early, but there are no pre-orders.
Have you identified the main root causes for instability on PTR opening day, and are you confident they will not be repeated at launch?
Yes, we have identified the root cause, and we are confident that that particular issue will not happen on day one of the expansion.
It's the beauty of a PTR. It allows us to catch some of these things before they go live.
Exactly. And if you had hopped into the PTR after we had put the fix through, you notice that the stability definitely got a lot better.
Cool. And with all the upcoming changes to the gearing system, I would expect that the overall process of getting a very good gear set will be faster and easier than before, and that the need for multiple sets will be reduced. With that in mind, what are the long-term goals for gear progression? How do you plan to keep gear progression interesting in the long term? Can we expect faster gear score increases than before, like 2 years from now on?
Let me start. I think, first of all, one of our goals here was to allow people to get really good gear quickly. Like, we wanted to make that faster. We wanted to make it less of a grind to get that. We wanted to make less requirements to get multiple sets. Again, the focus is on have fun. Like, that's one of the beauties of a classless game like ours is, like, you get to experiment with more builds, and we wanted players to have that opportunity. With that said, I do think, like, between artifacts, leveling them up, getting, absolute best 3 perks and 700 gear, there's still going to be a nice runway here also. And we'll talk more about the future of progression in the future.
Maybe in a Balance of Power episode.
Oh, what a great place for that.
Are there any plans to change from corrupted portals and invasions into Angry Earth portals and invasions? This is Rise of Angry Earth after all. I'm dreading doing the same invasions I've done for 2 years already.
Well, I'm sorry that you're dreading that. We don't have plans for Angry Earth changes, but if we were to do another race in the future, I think that would be an interesting call out, and it's something that we are talking about and I think would be a lot of fun.
Okay. If you look at how demanding the BIS crafting is going to be, along with getting all the new artifacts, then there is a very long grind ahead of you.
This is an interesting question after the one 2 questions ago where it was too quick. So I think, hopefully we're somewhere in the middle. I do think, like, the sort of the prismatic scarab crafting is relatively expensive, and that is intentional, right? Because that is pure BIS, best in slot. Like, it's 700 gear score. You get to choose all your perks. So that is a little bit expensive, but it's guaranteed to be the absolute best.
Okay. When buying the expansion, is there a chance we will get a discounted bundle that includes a premium season pass?
We are not bundling the expansion with the season pass. The season pass is an in-game purchase, and then the expansion you can purchase through the Steam store.
Are the influence windows currently just for testing, or is the idea that this will also be the time for live?
The idea is that this will also be the time for live. So we'll take feedback from the PTR and we decide if, it makes sense. But yeah, what was on the PTR is what we are currently working with.
Those are based on, like, the prime times of server windows, and we want those tight gaps, right, of time frame.
Yeah, we don't want it to be too spread out because the whole point is to get a lot of PvP players into one particular area, fighting it out and having a good time.
It's also super tunable, right? We're going to see in the PTR, but the live audience always behaves a little differently, and we've got cool tools and telemetry to be able to play with that and make sure that it always feels like optimal.
Okay, what happens to gypsum? Will it become useless?
No, gypsum still has a use, mainly building gypsum orbs out of it. The gypsum caches, are a little bit less useful. They're a good way to sort of get up to that 620 Sorry, let me try that again. Up to that 625 base level if you're sort of coming back to the game. But the orbs will still have good usage between the weapon matrices, which are used for rerolling perks and upgrading heart runes to 700.
We were told there was a PvP surprise we might could guess in addition to the influence changes. Was this just Eden Grove? And if so, how are we supposed to guess? A lot of us were hoping for a PvP zone or similar, and it feels like PvPers got left behind again.
All right, so there's a fair amount to unpack here. Now, I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure we didn't say a PvP special surprise. If we did, we were referring to Eden Grove replacing First Light, which, by the way, I think the Eden Grove settlement is pretty awesome. Also, PvPers, like the influence change, we think is going to have a major impact on the experience. So it saddens me to think that, you know, while we took the time to add this PvP feature, you still feel left behind. That said, you know, going forward, we have a lot more in mind for PvP. We're just not ready to talk about it. Today is about the expansion.
Will we be able to reset our territory standing?
No.
No. Jinx.
Good answer.
Neither of you can speak for the rest of this now. Since you
All right, take it away, Scott.
You already broke that rule.
Weird rules.
Jinx, you don't know the rules of Jinx?
I
I
know
thought it was
the
you buy
rules of.
like a soda or something for the other person.
No, it's Scott. You can answer the rest of them if you'd like.
We'll see.
I know the rules of Jinx. Come on. Okay. Question about PvE. Is there any plan to add more endgame activities other than mutations? Dungeon scaling based upon how many players in the party? Show some love for the PvE arenas? Any plan to improve invasions? Adding or changing activities which are rewarding players with crafting materials, stat perk mods, high tier crafting materials, etc.? Any plans to build upon corrupted portals, roadside encounters?
There was a lot of questions
Wow.
in there.
A lot of suggestions.
What I'll say is, like, we really want to keep this focused on the expansion. However, I'll give this tidbit. We have major plans to improve the PvE experience. We also have major plans to improve the PvP experience. But that's stuff we don't want to talk about until we start talking about next year.
What will happen in OPR war with the new level ranges? Will people who didn't buy the expansion be screwed?
Screwed's a hard word. OPR, we are raising the minimum level up to we're going to raise everyone up to 675 so they can compete. I know that's not all the way to 700, but that's what we're doing. War is going to be tough. Like, you know, the answer is you're not going to, it's going to be hard to get picked in war if you don't buy the expansion.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, there's no scaling in open world PvP or war, but it will be scaling in Outpost Rush. So
And
I know
arenas.
and arenas, and I know it's a favorite mode for a lot of our players. So you can get in there and be, you know, somewhat competitive, but like Scott said, this is something where if you really want to still be competitive and top of the leaderboards.
How will influence races work for companies that own multiple territories?
Well, influence races happen one territory at a time, so there's not a massive impact to companies that own multiple territories, but you will have to defend all of them. So that's something to consider. You know, you'll have to defend them in war. You already have to defend them in invasions, and then you're going to have to fight off everybody in the influence race. So it's something to consider for those that do own multiple territories.
With the new BIS crafting recipes requiring so many resources, are there any plans to reduce the amount of materials needed or adding new nodes?
We are looking at this. I think we are considering a slight reduction in the prismatic scarab crafting. We're going to take a look at more data, make a final decision, but that's potentially likely. We're also taking a look at the influx of mithril and the new end resources, and we may like increase the respawn time of those to help compensate for that also.
Yeah, we're going to keep looking and tuning as needed. Yep. So we'll be paying attention in data as well as to player reports.
Do we need to empty the First Light storage, or are the contents there moved to another storage with the update?
No, so if you didn't purchase the expansion, it's going to be the same experience that you have right now in game. So your storage from First Light, back when we introduced Season 2, is available through the storage system. It's not a physical location. That's still something you can pull from. You can't add to it. For those that purchase the expansion, you now have Elysian Wilds storage. So you can put things in, take things out. It acts just like the rest of the storage in the world.
But if you didn't buy the expansion, you can still get access to Eden Grove, which adds that storage back. So
Yes.
you really didn't miss out on any storage capacity.
Exactly. But if you're wondering specifically about what happens to the First Light stuff, it's still there.
Okay.
We will take your stuff.
All right.
Yet.
That was her.
Okay. Anything new about the First Light standing that you stole from us? The achievements are unreachable as well now.
Well, we are replacing it with the Eden Grove standing that you can start to build up, and same with the achievements there. You know, sometimes you have to do what you think is in the best health of the game. And while First Light was a zone that people hadn't played, the truth is the heat map showed there wasn't a lot of activity there. And it made a lot more sense to, rather than add another zone to the side of the map to further spread players out, to try to give players like a closer place to go. Because one thing we have learned is like, players like that proximity of each other. And the more we can support that, the better. So,
Yeah, and I mean, just to add on to that, the reason why we chose First Light is because there wasn't a ton of players, and the ones that were there were really at the fort capping it for the bonus. Yeah. And we preserved that with Season 2. We moved that to Weaver's Fen. So that's something that you still get. We preserved the storage for you so that you could still take things out. And now we've added Eden Grove storage. So it's evened out, and you can start that grind for the territory standing again.
Okay. There's a very hot topic on the Discord forum about the fresh server. Question: will there be at least one fresh server where after a month transfers will be opened or the server merged? Because many of my friends want to play the expansion, but completely from scratch without a damaged economy.
So no, there will not be fresh start servers with the expansion. And as far as the damaged economy, that's been a long time since we've had dupes and those horrible beginning game experiences that we totally own, and we have righted. You can still play on fresh start worlds that are around since the post Brimstone Sands launch. So those are still around. As long as they have the no transfer in mark on them, then feel free to join those ones. Or join a legacy server, because it's a lot of fun too.
Heyo. I am worried about the state of the game after introducing pay-to-win to the game. Could someone please clarify what happens to the players that do not buy the expansion? Will PvP be equally balanced for free and paid players? Are they able to use the same gear and weapon? Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't look at it as pay-to-win. I look at it more of a pay-to-continue the game, to play to keep progressing both your level, play to have access to the new content, and continue growing your character, which I think is a pretty common theme in the genre. That said, you know, we are still giving players that don't buy the expansion access to new content like the Eden Grove settlement, which is a pretty big deal, I think. Also, we're trying to do our best to keep them competitive in PvP while keeping it fair for everybody by, you know, Outpost Russian arenas raising it to 675 so that they can at least compete and be a part of it. But overall, like, you know, the expansion's where the new content and the new hot stuff is.
Yep.
So I've heard that people who put New World on a disk drive have a pretty bad experience. Could we speak to this?
Yeah, I think the minimum requirements for New World is a disk drive that goes at 2,000 megabytes per second. That is going to be really, really hard to achieve on any hard disk drive unless it's like RAID zeroed and like all this optimization. So most likely you're going to need an SSD to hit those speeds. So please, the gameplay is a lot better. You'll remove a lot of the micro stuttering and enjoy it a lot more.
Okay. And finally, so what should players be doing between now and the expansion that would be valuable after the expansion?
First, it's always valuable to just play and enjoy the game and have fun. One thing that I would probably do is if you're one of those people that's into the MSQ and you're working through it and leveling again, especially if you came back and you'd stop, I would actually stop it before entering Great Cleave. And then we've redone that, and there's all this new exposition on Thorpe, and the fight's really cool, and it'll pick up and carry you through that. And so I would stop at the end of Weaver's Fen right before you go to Great Cleave.
And if you've already completed the up to, say, Tempest, right? So a lot of people I know got up to Tempest and maybe didn't go through Brimstone Sands. Make sure you go through Brimstone Sands, because up to Tempest, you're getting like 500 level gear. And then in Brimstone, the quest line drops like 615 gear score items, 620 gear score items. So you can start picking up at least like those items to get you ready for Elysian Wilds in the higher level zone. So definitely complete Brimstone Sands if you have not.
I think if you're a min-maxer, there's a lot you could potentially do depending on how deep you want to go. Like one thing, I would get all my crafting skills up to 200, all my refining skills up to 200. I would probably stockpile enough materials to ensure I could get to 250 very quickly. Like if you're going to do smelting, you'd probably need around 1,300 ori ingots. So prepare all the materials for that. I'd get my weapon masteries all up to 20. There's lots of good strategies on that. What else might I do? I might start getting materials that will be useful. Gypsum orbs, like we talked about, have some use. So if you don't have those, I would gather some of those. And I'd get all my gear ready, to fight in Elysian Wilds. There's going to be a lot of Angry Earth. There's going to be a lot of beasts there. We did get rid of wards, but remember, there are now the new ward potions, which sort of are longer lasting. So have a couple of those ready and have gear ready to fight the wilds of Elysian.
Yeah, and I would, once the expansion comes out, I wouldn't rush through the content. I would take your time and enjoy it. Go get that horse, cruise around, go up and check out Eden Grove, because the settlement is really cool, and there's a lot of neat stuff that you could just see by, getting lost in the world a little bit.
Well, if you're Syndicate, you have to go up to Eden Grove anyways to start your Elysian Wilds questline.
Yeah.
So you're already in there. Marauders and Covenant will have to take a little detour from where their starter quests are.
Or rush to 700 and own an arena.
100%.
Yes.
100%. That's what we're doing.
Anyway, I think that's it, right?
Actually, while we're here, what mount are you each going to ride?
Direwolf.
Probably the wolf.
I like classic. I'm going to stick with the horse.
Okay, no lions. Okay, I'm good.
Cats. All right, well, that's it. And, thanks to everybody for continuing to support us and play. Getting to episode 50 of this is kind of a pretty cool milestone for us. So we just can't stress enough how much we appreciate the support and the constant feedback, and just love the dialogue back and forth with everybody. It's awesome. So if you like us, subscribe. We'll keep doing these. Otherwise, we'll see you in Eternum.
Okay.
What's wrong?
No. You're supposed to like and subscribe.
If you like us, subscribe.
I want to say like. If you like us, like it.
No, but it's really on theme for clapping the knees comments too. So
clapping the knees.
We're not redoing the ending.
The knees.
No, we're not redoing it.
Yeah.
That's the ending.
Okay.